A boy playing in a dusty field gets his legs stuck in a mud, and when the earth collapses beneath him, he uncovers a centuries-old hidden masjid filled with untouched books. Overnight, he begins reading the Quran fluently, even without learning the language, and explains ancient manuscripts better than experts. People think he's possessed, but the truth is far more powerful. This is the true miracle he asked God to show him. Boy falls into mud, uncovers hidden masjid, and wakes up with miracle knowledge. A warm afternoon sun covered the small village playground where a young boy named Rian, a bright and curious non-Muslim child of 12, loved spending his free time running, jumping, and playing with the dusty earth beneath his feet, and one ordinary day suddenly turned into a day that would change his life forever when, while chasing a kite that had broken loose from string, he jumped near the far corner of the ground where the soil often stayed softer after the rains, and as he landed, his right leg slipped deep inside the mud with surprising force, pulling him down almost to his knee, and he felt a strange coldness under the warm earth, making him shout for help. But before anyone could reach him, he tried to jerk his leg free with all his strength, and the moment he pulled upward, the ground around him shook lightly, as if something inside the earth had been awakened after many centuries of sleep, causing the surface to crack and sink slowly, and before the terrified eyes of Rian and the children running toward him. The soil collapsed inward, revealing a dark, hollow space beneath the field, and inside that hollow space the faint outline of old stone walls shimmered through the dust rising from below, and as the dust settled, the shape of a hidden underground structure appeared more clearly, and the children screamed and ran, but Rian, filled with fear and wonder at the same time, crawled forward carefully to look deeper into the pit, discovering the sign of a lost masjid buried under layers of earth, its pillars still standing, its walls covered with faded inscriptions, and shelves lined with countless ancient books wrapped in cloth and leather that had survived the passing of time. And though he had never stepped inside a masjid before, something inside his heart felt strangely peaceful as he stared at the hidden sanctuary glowing softly in the filtered sunlight above, and soon villagers rushed to the site, shocked, amazed, whispering that this could be an archaeological treasure untouched for centuries. And as officials, elders, and scholars arrived to examine the place, Rian found his mind repeatedly drifting back to the gentle silence he had felt while looking at the ancient masjid. And that night, when he returned home, he felt something unusual tugging at his thoughts, an urge he could not explain, and he found himself searching online for the Quran, reading verses slowly, feeling a calmness settling in his chest like a long-lost friend had come to comfort him. And the next morning he woke before sunrise, something he never did, and he sat quietly at the window reciting the same verses again, even though he did not fully understand why he wanted to do so. And in the days that followed, every time he visited the site, the books found inside the underground masjid seemed to speak to him, even though he had never studied Arabic or Islamic history. And yet when scholars opened volumes and discussed them, Rian found himself explaining meaning, context, and stories with surprising clarity, leaving the learned men stunned because the knowledge he spoke of was something even they had never fully mastered, and soon people whispered that he might be possessed or influenced by spirits guarding the old place. But Rian felt none of that, for inside his heart he felt only warmth, serenity, and a strong connection to something greater than everything he had known. And as he continued reading more from the preserved manuscripts and comparing them with printed Quran scholars brought, he began naturally following the sunnah, washing exactly as taught, speaking gently, behaving humbly, helping neighbors, and spending long minutes sitting by the ruined masjid in deep thought as if listening to an invisible teacher. And though some villagers grew fearful and suspicious, others felt awe at his transformation, because Rian had never been a religious child nor a troublemaker, just ordinary, but now there was something extraordinary inside him, something that made even adults listen carefully when he spoke. And one evening, as he walked near the spot where the earth had first opened, he looked at the sky painted orange by the setting sun, and with a trembling voice he whispered softly, "Oh God, if you are truly who they say you are, show me a miracle." and the moment the words left his lips, the wind around him softened. The scent of blooming jasmine floated by even though no jasmine grew nearby. And the ground that had once swallowed his leg glowed faintly with a peaceful golden light, not bright enough to blind, but warm enough to fill the air with quiet reassurance. And Rian felt tears rolling down his cheeks without knowing why. And suddenly a page from one of the old books that scholars had placed on a temporary table fluttered into the air, landing gently at his feet, with a verse translated in simple handwriting, saying that guidance comes to those whose hearts open willingly. And Rian realized the miracle he had asked for was not a flash of thunder or the shaking of mountains, but the soft, silent opening of truth inside a human heart. And from that day onward, he continued learning, explaining each ancient manuscript with clarity that amazed historians and spiritual teachers alike. And instead of fear, the villagers began to accept his transformation, understanding that something sacred had reached him not through force, but through love. And years later, the underground Masjid was carefully restored as a heritage site for people of all beliefs to visit. And Rian became known far beyond his village as the boy whose heart changed when he uncovered a forgotten house of worship. Yet he always said the greatest discovery he made that day was not the books, not the stones, not the forgotten walls, but the light that opened inside him when he dared to ask God for a sign. And the world remembered his story as a reminder that miracles often appear quietly, through curiosity, sincerity, and a heart willing to listen to truth even when it comes from unexpected places. And so the story of the boy, the sinking ground, the hidden masjid, and the message of peace that followed traveled across villages, cities, countries, and hearts, inspiring millions to seek knowledge, respect all faiths, and recognize that guidance sometimes arrives softly, like dust settling over ancient pages, revealing wisdom that had waited patiently for someone willing to see it. And Rian continued to walk his path with humility, grateful for the day his foot got stuck in the earth, because that ordinary accident uncovered an extraordinary journey that shaped not only his life, but countless others who found comfort, curiosity, and hope in his story. If this story touched your heart, imagine how many more miracles of history and faith are still hidden around us. Subscribe now for more powerful Islamic stories, real discoveries, and life-changing reminders that open the heart, uplift the soul, and strengthen your journey. Don't forget to like, share, and comment. Miracles still happen to spread the message.